Hello all, welcome back to my YouTube channel all about VLSI. In this particular video, let us try to understand few system functions which we are going to have use in our assertions, right? So the very first system function which we are going to discuss is dollar $rows. Now let's try to understand what do you mean by dollar $rows with this particular timing waveform. So before that, let me pause this particular timing waveform. One second, yeah. So let's say we are going to have this particular timing waveform where we are going to have this clock and we are going to have this signal which is known as REQ, right? And the output, basically this we are going to use this function which is known as dollar $rows. Now, first of all, let us try to understand what do you mean by this dollar $rows and let's move forward, right? So let me first of all share my screen. Yes. So let's say, suppose if I'm going to use this dollar rows, if I'm going to have dollar rows of a particular signal in our example, the signal name is REQ. Now, if I'm going to use this dollar rows function and REQ, this function is going to evaluate this REQ. Let's say, suppose if there is any change in this signal REQ, if there is any transition from 0 to 1, this particular function is going to return 1, and if there is a change in the in the variable 1 to 0, then it is going to return 0. So this function is going to return 1 if there is a transition from 0 to 1, and if this function is going to return 0 if there is a transition from 1 to 0, or if there is no transition at all. So in this three cases, this function is going to return the value 0, whereas in this particular case it is going to return me 1. So this is how your dollar $rows function is going to work. Now, how to analyze in this particular waveform? Let us try to understand the same waveform over here. I took over here, right? Now, how to analyze this particular waveform? Let us try to understand. If you carefully observe over here, this particular function, this is my clock which I'm going to have, and this is my REQ waveform I'm going to have, right? Now, at this particular passage of clock, you can see over here, REQ is equal to 1, right? And previously, let's assume it is equal to 0. So there is a transition from 0 to 1. That's the reason my output of this function is becoming 1, right? Now over here, if you carefully observe at this particular passage of clock, your REQ at the present passage of clock, REQ is equal to 1, and previous cycle REQ is equal to 1. So in both the cases, REQ is equal to 1. So that's the reason my dollar rows of my function is returning 0. So this pulse is becoming 0 over here in this particular cycle. And in this cycle, you can observe REQ is equal to 1, and previously also it was equal to 1. So that's the reason the function is returning 0 and your output pulse is equal to 0, right? And over here, REQ at this particular passage of clock, you might say REQ is equal to 1. But this function is going to evaluate the stable values, and over here there is a transition. So that's the reason this particular function is going to evaluate the signal just before the positive edge of the clock. That means this particular value it is going to sample. So here REQ value is equal to 0, right? So present it is equal to 0 and previously it is equal to 1. That's the reason your function is going to return 0. So you please be careful in this particular point. So at this particular passage of clock, if there is any transition, so this function is going to evaluate the previous stable value before this particular passage of clock, that is basically equal to 0. So you're going to consider at this particular passage it is equal to 0, and previously also it is equal to 0. I mean it is equal to 1. So there is a 1 to 0 transition. So that's the reason this function is going to return you 0. Now, at this particular passage of clock, your REQ value is a stable value which is equal to 1. There is no transition. And previously it is equal to 0. So there is a positive transition. So that's the reason your REQ function is going to return 1. And at the next cycle, passage of clock, your REQ value is equal to 1 and previous value is also equal to 1. So it will be 1 only. Function is going to return 1. So that is how your dollar $rows function is going to detect whether there is any positive transition in your signal, whatever the argument you have given. So that is how this a particular waveform is also going to look like. So depending upon the values of your REQ, your function is going to return either 1 or it is going to become 0. Now let's see one more scenario over here. So where we have, let me pause this. Yeah. So where we have this REQ signal, and so if there is any positive transition in your REQ signal, then only this dollar rows function is going to return one, or else it is going to return zero. So depending upon your positive transition in your REQ, your it is going to return one, or else it is going to return zero. And coming to one more function which is known as dollar $fill. So dollar $fill is basically going to observe the falling edge. I mean falling transition. So if there is any transition from of the value from 1 to 0, then this function is going to return me the true value, or else it is going to return me 1, or else if there is no transition, or else if there is 0 to 0, or else if there is positive transition, it is going to return me false, or else you can give 0. So this function is going to return 0. If there is any negative transition or a falling transition in the variable which we are going to give, then it is going to return me 1. So I can simply write it down as dollar $fill of REQ. So if there is any negative transition or transition from 1 to 0, this function is going to return me 0. So this is how this function is going to work. And in this particular example, we can see over here, the REQ value is equal to 1. And here at this particular passage of clock, REQ value is equal to 0. So there is a falling transition, right? So that's the reason your dollar $fill is becoming 1. This function is returning 1. And there is a positive transition. So that's the reason here, all this particular cases, it is not returning any particular value as 1. And again, at this particular instance of clock, previous value was equal to 1 and present value was equal to 0. That's the reason dollar $fill of dollar $fill function is returning 1. And again, here the values are stable. So it is being constant only. It is not it is constant. So that's the reason dollar $fill function is becoming 0. So this is how your dollar rows and dollar $fill functions are going to work. Yeah. So that's about this particular video. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel all about VLSI. Thank you for watching this video.